I want to lose weight. I hate my body. I hate
Oh,
how I look.
you
I
hear
go,
that in those
oh,
words.
100%. I hate going to the car line or pickup and I see all these moms in these cute workout outfits. And here I am in my big t-shirt and shorts, covering everything up. I look at in the mirror, I compare myself, and then the whole social media thing is what's blown it truly out of the water. Because, they follow certain people or they, follow this recipe person or this exercise person. And why can't I just follow this plan and it not work? What I have to remind them is, well, that's not reality, right?
Right. Right.
Those people you're seeing posting, that's not even their reality, probably.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Insights from the Couch. It's Colette and Laura. And if you want to have a better relationship with your body and be fit in mind and body at midlife, this is the episode for you. We have Dena Pistor on, who is a personal trainer with her own studio in Winter Park, Florida. She's been in the business for 25 years. Wow. And has 3 daughters. Welcome, Dena. We're thrilled to have
Hello.
you.
Thank you so much
Yes.
for having me. I'm honored and excited to be on with you both today.
Well, we're
Yay.
thrilled to have you. So let's dive right in. And, maybe Dena, you could start by just telling us a little bit about what brought you to this line of work and something about your own personal journey as we're going to explore women and our relationship with our bodies at midlife.
I've been, as Colette said, in the business for 25 years. I sort of took a roundabout way of getting here. Whenever I was in college and high school, I played sports. And in college, I'd go to the rec center and exercise. And specifically, it was the summer between my freshman and sophomore year. I was a waitress at TGI Fridays. And
Classic.
classic, right?
Classic.
And I was walking through the kitchen and I hear somebody, one of the cooks says, Dena. And I looked and I was like, oh my gosh, hey. And it was a guy that I went to high school with. And he comes around, he gives me a hug. And I was like, hey, how are you doing? He's like, good, good. He goes, oh my gosh, you look like really healthy. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you look so healthy. It's good. And in my mind, I was like, wait, did I used to look unhealthy? So
Yeah.
I must have been smaller. So now that I look healthy, like I put on weight and oh my gosh. And that for me, that moment in time I've traced back was the minute that I started a journey with eating, with an eating disorder.
Wow.
In that moment, I can pinpoint it. I remember spiraling in my head, which he didn't mean anything by it. He
Right.
was just like a dude in college, like, hey, you look healthy, you look good. And in my mind, I shot back. Wait, I used to look unhealthy. I must have been thinner. Now I look bigger. And so inadvertently, I started to overexercise and I completely changed my route in college, right, to do exercise physiology and learn more about the body and sort of began exercise bulimia, anorexia, regular bulimia. And so being vulnerable and talking about this, it used to be something I wouldn't say to anyone, definitely not my clients, but now I've, started to open up because of the world that we're living in today. And I say the world we're living in, the Ozempic world, right? So we have so much else going on, this whole full circle where for a while, the whole body positivity, where we were accepting of everyone's body, which was amazing. And now I feel like with Ozempic coming into play, we're going back to the everybody's so thin and I want to be thin and I want to be thinner. And if you're not taking Ozempic, why aren't you taking it? Because everyone's taking it, right?
Okay, so a lot to
Yeah.
unpack there. And,
Yes.
and I want to come back to some of what you're saying with this point. But first, let me just ask you a little bit more about your personal experience, if I could. Because, first of all, thank you for sharing this with us, with everyone. I think there are very few women out there who haven't had some struggle with eating, body image. So it is such a beautiful thing that we're talking about it more openly and really normalizing and destigmatizing that. I think it's hugely important. And maybe you could just share a little bit with us, for exercise bulimia, some people may not be familiar with what that is, and we can speak on it too. But how did you define that for you? And is that something that you still struggle with?
Everyone thinks of bulimia dealing with food, right? A way to purge the body from something that you ate. Well, I used it as in terms of exercise, where I was over exercising hours and upon hours in a day. I would go on vacation. I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go run. I grew up in Illinois. I'd go out when it was snowing. I'd go out when it was, nothing would keep me from the exercise. That was my form of control. And if I didn't do it, well,
Yeah.
I would say if I didn't do it, I never didn't do it. Right.
Wow.
It just overtook me. It was, like people for smoking cigarettes, mine was exercise, but to the extreme. But what's interesting about exercise bulimia is that I would get praised for, oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Worse.
Wow, you ran 10 miles today. Oh, I wish I could do that. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, little did they know I wasn't doing it because I enjoyed it. It was that voice in my head, you've got to, you've got to, you've got to.
Pushing
So
you.
you're definitely kind of lifted up as like, oh my gosh, I saw you in the gym and wow, it's so overwhelming to see how much you're doing. And I'm like, they see it as great. That's why it's kind of a slippery slope because people don't see it always at the beginning as this issue or problem.
Right. Because if you're
Isn't-
drinking compulsively, people, even that can be normalized, right? But drinking, drugs, whatever. But this is an addiction
To something
and a
good.
coping mechanism, right? That is valued. So you get this weird praise validation for something that maybe isn't necessarily as healthy as it looks on the outside.
At all.
And isn't it interesting too, like, this being in the fitness industry, and if you're following along like fitness influencers on Instagram, you can kind of see right through it. Like it's always being fueled by this current of anxiety. So,
100%.
and people beat themselves up for not being able to do these things. Like, wow, she's so exceptional. She can get out there in the rain and the snow and get it done. And there must be something wrong with me. No, you probably just don't have the same requisite level of anxiety
Right. Yeah.
to manage it.
100%. It was not
they-
something I was proud of. And in fact, when people would sort of praise me, I felt like a fraud, right? Like, oh God, if you only really knew why I was really doing this, but thank you. Almost like, please don't be like me is what I was thinking in my head.
Right.
And sort of the downfall, if you will, for me was I was running 70 miles a week. 10 miles a day was I wouldn't do anything less than 10 miles.
How old are you when you're
10
doing
miles a day.
this?
I was 26 years old.
Okay.
Okay. So 26 years old. I was trainer at a gym here in Orlando, 10 miles a day, wouldn't miss it. I mean, I was like a rat on the treadmill. And people like, there's Dena, there's Dena. And what ended up happening, I ended up fracturing my hip. And I went in at the age of 26 years old. They did a bone scan and I had the bones of a 78-year-old woman.
Wow.
From what? From all that exercise?
Exercising,
Osteopenia.
not eating right, osteopenia, which is a precursor to osteoporosis. So I wasn't eating right? I was over exercising and that was my body's way, which again, a stress fracture, right, is too much stress placed on your body. And that's your body's way of saying,
Wow.
hold on,
Too much.
we're done. If you're not going to stop and you're not going to listen to these signs I'm giving you, I'm going to make you. So I couldn't run. So what I did was there was this arm bike in the gym where I worked. I would go and do the arm bike for like 2 hours a day because I was that high, right? I had to get it. And so, then I could start running again and, the struggle then with the food and the binging and it was just this vicious sort of cycle. But truly for me was whenever I sort of got slapped in the face is whenever I got pregnant with my first daughter and I realized that this was bigger than me, right? Like I couldn't keep doing this because now she was what I needed to take care of.
And nourish.
So, yeah. So, and, a lot of people, whenever I got pregnant, were like, the chatter, which I later heard is, oh my gosh, is she going to be able to carry this the full term? Is she going to continue, et cetera, et cetera? But it really was for me the wake up call that I needed. Now, I'm not going to say here to this day that I don't still have those tendencies. I still exercise quite a bit, not as much as I used to. But that for me was my aha moment, right? Like, stop, Dena. This is, like I just said, this is bigger than you.
I'm wondering, did you struggle at all to get pregnant? I mean, I'm imagining that your period is probably waxing and waning throughout these years.
It was all over the place, but with Sloan, I did not. But then after Sloan, I had a 2-year span of where we didn't try, and then we were going to try for more. And this is whenever I found out that my body had gone into ovarian failure. So, which is not brought on by exercise or not eating or anything, but the chatter again was, oh, she can't get pregnant because of X, Y, or Z, right? Because of what she used to do. This has now been which, was verified by multiple doctors that no, this is not it. It's just an autoimmune response that happened in my body. So I struggled for 4 years to have Quinn and Reeve and did multiple rounds of IVF. But again, one did not happen to the other.
Right. But there's still that chatter, as people do, always judging and making links that aren't even there.
Always judging. And it's funny. I remember multiple people saying to me, oh, you didn't get big with Sloan. I can't wait to see what happens when you have twins.
Wow.
Ooh,
right?
Like wanting to see you go
Wanting to
through
see
something.
me, like, right? And so again, that was beyond hurtful, right? For people to say that and to think, and then in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's what we were really thinking. Oh, she didn't get big with Sloan, so now hopefully, this would happen. And my whole pregnancy with Quinn and Reeve was a struggle because I had two. I was nauseous. I wasn't putting on the weight, and I remember going to my high-risk doctor and her saying, this is ridiculous. You need to. And I said, listen, I have worked for 4 years to have these girls. Okay. I would not and am not eating. Okay. And later she did apologize for that. She's like, because every time I went to the doctor, they were gaining weight. I just wasn't. They were just sucking the life right out of me. But it's just that stigma that, I think still to this day, people probably still, chatter behind of. And again, I'll be honest, I still exercise quite a bit, not as much as I used to. I run 5 days a week and I keep that in check. I do a half marathon a year, which I see you at, Laura, and that's my 1 half marathon. And people say, why don't you do more? And it's because I can't.
Yeah, you found a window. And actually, that's part of what I was going to ask you next, Dena, because it's such an incredible story. And it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that initially, that pivotal moment where you got a comment from someone innocent saying, ironically, I mean, I think this speaks to how much women in society, we've internalized these horrible messages to the point where someone telling you looked healthy was a negative that set you spiraling. And you initially pursued this work to manage yourself, to be this internalized, perfective ideal.
Yes.
But then somewhere along the way, your daughter, your injuries, you really changed how you saw some of this, and you manage yourself now. So how has it shifted for you in terms of how you see your body and take care of yourself at midlife? Because I think a lot of our audience will relate to this. How do you see healthy now?
I mean, it's so different than, like I was in my 20s. And I always have my girls in my head, right? And being a role model for them.
Yeah.
And, when we go on vacation, I still get up and go to the gym, but I wanted to see them in a healthy way, right? Not overly doing it. It's hard as we get older, and we all experience it, things shift, and what we used to do in order to be healthy is not the same. So, and truth be told, it's a work in progress, right? I'm constantly keeping myself in check. And sometimes I feel that ship sort of getting a little bit rocky. I'm not going to lie and say it doesn't. And I'm proud to say I'm not reverting to old ways. But what I have found the normalcy for me, even like I said to, Laura, running 1 half marathon, if I did more, it would be bad news, right? Because when I'm in that mode and people see me, they're like, oh, it's coming up, isn't it? And it is, but then I'm able to reel it back, which for me
Yeah.
is huge. People say, do you want to do this? No. This race? No.
Yeah.
So there is
Love
no, it's like a Jenga piece. That's what
Yeah.
I tell my
Yeah.
clients. Figuring it all out is a Jenga piece. You take one piece out, hope it doesn't fall over, put the other one in, and just kind of keep building.
Keep
and
balance.
and figure out what works for you, because what works for me is not going to work for everybody else.
Right.
Right.
But balance is key. Balance is key.
Balance is key.
So what about what you see with women coming in? Do you see, because you mentioned, Ozempic, and maybe we can segue to that at some point and your take on that. And there's been a big healthy at any size movement. I notice having 2 daughters in college that they embrace bodies of all size so differently. It is such a joy to me to see, the girls are wearing, whether you approve of this or not, these little short shorts, regardless of what they weigh, which never would have happened. I'm 50 years old. That never would have happened. I was taught to beat myself up for my body constantly as a child. Are you really seeing women at midlife in their 40s, 50s, even 60s? Are we more holistic now and embracing, or are the women who come in to train with you still running that internal game? And maybe it's both. What do you see?
There's a very small percentage who are embracing.
But that's the small percentage.
Very, very small.
Wow.
But most people at the end of the day, they want the thin,
even at this age.
And what are they saying? Are they saying like, I just want to get thin? I mean, how literal is it on the nose?
I want to lose weight. I hate my body. I hate how I look.
You hear that in those words.
100%. I hate going to the car line or pickup and I see all these moms in these cute workout outfits. And here I am in my big t-shirt and shorts covering everything up. I look in the mirror, I compare myself, and then the whole social media thing is what's blown it truly out of the water, because, they follow certain people, or they, follow this recipe person or this exercise person. And why can't I just follow this plan and it not work? What I have to remind them is, well, that's not reality, right? Those people you're seeing posting, that's not even their reality, probably.
Right.
So social media, to me, has really changed the game in terms of women being accepting of themselves, because they're always striving for that. I hear, oh, did you see this exercise that this lady posted? I want to be able to do that. No, I can't even do that, right?
Wow.
Because this is some woman who probably does nothing but work out all day long in her gym and taping herself.
Right. And or airbrushed and edited.
So I will say I have not seen a shift at all.
Oh, that is so sad to me. I mean, it brings me back to like what you said initially about being young and that guy saying to you that you look healthy. I think we all have these like shame stories. I was talking to Colette about how like the J. Crew models, I don't know if you remember the J. Crew catalog, but they were all like so skinny. And to this day, that's like locked somewhere inside my brain. And like the fact that like a big butt is now supposedly attractive, like I can't believe that.
You can't wrap your head around it, right?
Yeah. And I think every woman has these shame stories that they're just stuck in and operating from. And I would love to hear that it's softening, but it doesn't sound like it is.
From my perspective, it is not.
No, it sounds like it's not. And I think some of this speaks to our generation and the way we were raised and our value being inextricably tied with what we weigh, which is also tied to the male gaze, especially at a time when people were not able to be as openly gay and as openly embracing of different body types. I mean, society in the 80s, right? It was like, this is the way to be. And if you're not that, you're wrong. Therefore, you should feel some shame. And I was sharing with Laura the other day that, I just went to the pool. I'm someone who's always struggled with my weight. Even when I was young, I developed very early. I was skinny as a kid. And then at puberty, which I got my period at 11, I got a little chubby. And I remember my aunt saying, oh, don't let your stomach stick out like that. Like you should suck your stomach in or something. And I don't even think it was about thin. I think I was like doing this thing with my cousin where you could like blow your stomach up with air to look pregnant. And we were joking around. But just like your story, it lodged in my head. And then I saw all the people around me so rail thin that that's what I wanted to be. And I could never quite get there or stay there. So now, I do really embrace myself differently. So on the one hand, I feel like, okay, I love my body and, I've got cellulite and I've got some rolls and who cares? I'm alive. But on the other hand, like I was at the pool the other day and I'm wearing a bikini, even though by 80s standards, I shouldn't be, right? But I'm wearing a bikini. And on the one hand, I'm like, whatever, this is me. But on the other hand, there's a part of me that doesn't want to get up and walk to the pool because I feel like fat will be seen that's unattractive and it's shameful. So it's like both things are true within me.
Mhm.
And as much as I want to shed that, I would be lying if I said that I could completely.
Mhm.
Even as a therapist and as someone who would not want any woman, much less my own daughters, to carry that.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
really complicated and it runs deep.
It's very complicated. And I think, sometimes when my clients come in, there's days when they do say, oh, I'm glad to be doing this. It helps with my stress and stuff. But that lasts like a tiny bit. And then it's back to, oh, I dislike this or I dislike that. So it is this exhausting sort of rat
Cycle.
race that we are all
Mhm.
on. Right. And I wish I had the answer. And my philosophy is, I'm not this trainer when you come in and say, hey, you're not allowed to have this, you're not allowed to have that. People say, oh, I know you're going to tell me I can't drink wine. No, we're going to figure out how to make this work, okay, where you can have what you want. We just do things differently. Again, going back to that whole Jenga piece, because all we do in our life is set these expectations. And then when we fail, we drop back down the ladder, right? And then we start climbing back up again. And I feel like in our society, especially with exercise and weight loss, it's just this constant like climb, climb, climb. And, I will say about the whole Ozempic, I have women coming in, just some of them in tears, that some of their friends who have been on the struggle bus with them, okay, to sort of, lose the weight and we're in this together. And all of a sudden now they've done it, right? And at first with Ozempic, I feel like some people are like, oh gosh, why would so and so? But now it's becoming so accepted. And it's almost like, oh my God, they're taking the easy way out. Now,
Yes.
please let me I know some people 100% do need it. Okay. I have no doubt about that. But some don't. And instead of putting in the hard work, for me, being in the fitness industry for 25 years, this is almost the magic pill that I've never
Wow.
seen something like this before. I really have not.
I
But
didn't
Where
we
even
don't.
think about that when you were talking about women doing Ozempic. I didn't, but I guess it's more common. And
it's,
are you seeing that in like average sized women
oh,
taking that on just to be
100%.
skinny?
And
Yeah,
we don't know the long-term effects
we
of
do
what this
not.
is going to do for people who don't. I mean, listen, if you're morbidly obese or have diabetes, clearly it's a cost benefit analysis. But for women who are maybe 10, 15 pounds, 20 pounds overweight, to be so obsessed that they're willing to potentially jeopardize their long-term health to be thin tells us we haven't come that far.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will share, and this is kind of a cryptic thought, right? Where I realized I was sitting with this whole Ozempic stuff and seeing, all these celebrities losing weight. Oprah now is done with Weight Watchers. She's embracing
I
Ozempic.
know.
And I was like, why am I so angry? Because when people ask me about it, I get really, really angry. And I sat with it. I realized I'm like, you know what? I'm angry because if I was back in college, whenever I was starting this whole thing, I would have probably done it, right? And saved myself. Like, I think I get mad because I'm like, you know what? I put myself through hell, right? And if there was that magic pill back there, how different my life would have been, and all the agony. And I was supposed to go to University of Kentucky for grad school. It was my dream, had apartment and everything. And instead I went to rehab for an eating disorder, right? So I think, dang it, these people are getting to do what I probably would have done and what I see sometimes or feel that I've lost, but in actuality, I didn't. I mean, the person I've become and how strong I have, I can't take that away. But I think that's kind of where I'm at with it, is that I wish people wouldn't take that easy way out, right? And just do the hard work and exercise it. But again, I'm not shaming those who are doing or taking those in, because again, some people do need it for a medical condition, but I see it becoming so much more normalized now. It's worrisome to me.
Yeah.
So Dena, like take us into like, because we're like in the shame story that probably all women carry. And then we have all these like lengths that women will go to sort of be thin, but give us the common sense pathway through. Like we're in midlife. What's the best we can do by ourselves in terms of health? What do we need to be focused on?
Just what feels comfortable for you. And, when I have a new client start, they always say, oh, I know you're going to tell me I need to go run 5 days a week. No, you don't. Right? No, you don't. You find something that you enjoy and you do it. I tell if running's your thing, a couple days a week, right? It doesn't have to be this, go big or go home
Right.
sort of mentality. It doesn't. It has to be something that we can sustain for life.
Yes.
And my sort of rule of thumb is, I say the 4-4-4 rule or the 6-6-6 rule. Whatever you start, okay, whether it be a exercise routine, a pill, a shot. Do you see yourself doing it in 4 weeks? Do you see yourself doing it in 4 months? Do you see yourself doing it in 4 years? And if the answer is yes, I can get up and go running a couple times a week. I can cut back on certain things. I can, eat chicken and blah, blah, blah. In 4 years, awesome. We can do this. If the answer is no, I don't see myself taking a shot every week in 4 years, or, taking these supplements or starving myself, not having bread, then there's your answer. But we flip back to our society today, social media, okay, quick fix. We all want the quick fix. And at the end of the day, I tell people, I'm very transparent. It's another job to be healthy, especially another job to be healthy at our age.
You have to put energy and intentionality into it.
Energy, intentionality. If you're a mom, if you have a job and then you're a mom, and then it's put your health. And that's very, very hard in today's world with so much sort of coming at us from everywhere. And then, Joe, somebody says, oh, well, I'm taking this supplement. You should take it. How easy and tempting it is. I don't blame people for doing it.
Sure.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen when in 4 years, I love your 4-4-4, because in 4 years, are you going to still be taking Ozempic? I mean, one of the dangers with it that I've heard in talking to friends who are doctors is that you can't stay on it forever. And when you get off of it, if you haven't really changed and committed to a balanced, healthy lifestyle, you're going to gain all the way back and maybe even more.
Even more.
Yeah. So, but you're right. Everyone wants the quick fix.
Yeah.
And it's so tempting, but consistency. So, and you're saying that, find something you love.
Yes.
And commit to and be consistent. Don't kill yourself. It doesn't have to be so extreme.
It doesn't. But reverting back to, let's use the example of, pick up at school. Hey, Laura, what'd you do? Oh, I went to Orange Theory. And so, what'd you do? Oh, I went over here to this fitness class. And then you're like, oh, I just went for a walk. Right. And they're all doing these high intensity stuff. And then that's what starts playing here, that little story in the head. Like, I'm not doing enough. They're doing this. I'm only doing that. But again, pulling it back, peeling back the layers, what works for you? And it's not going to be that quick fix. I never promised anyone by such a date, this is going to happen. There's so many factors to come into play. I tell people, well, I'm not going to ask you how much you exercise when they first see me. How much do you sleep? Right? Because sleep for me is at the top of the food chain. Okay. It's not food. It's not exercise. It is sleep. Without sleep, everything else falls apart.
You're so right. And, I just think on the whole social comparison idea, we are wired to compare ourselves to others. It has an evolutionary function because we're herd animals. We're social creatures. It's a way of knowing how you're doing in the group. And if you have to make adjustments, So it can
Right.
be aspirational. It can point you to where you want to go, but it can also run amok, especially in modern society when we have social media and we don't live in herds in the same way we did a gazillion years ago. Right. So now it can be so tempting to always be on that hedonic treadmill of trying to be like everyone else.
Yes.
And I think you make a great point that we have to understand that it's normal to compare ourselves and bring ourselves back to what I like to say to myself and others is compare yourself to you. How am I doing against where I've been? How am I doing in terms of where I want to go? And sometimes it's a mere matter of being aware that you're starting to get into the comparison treadmill
Mhm.
and bring yourself back. Am I doing well for me?
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. And everybody's so different genetically, right?
Yeah.
It is not as easy for some people to lose weight. Some people don't have enough or need more of leptin or whatever it is,
It's
the
the
hormone
hormone,
that
the
makes you feel
hormone.
full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lifestyle factors,
Right.
right? What your job is, how many kids, again, the sleep, the list goes on and on and on. But we're so quick to judge, right, people. And I also say to my clients, okay, maybe you're coming in and we're not seeing the results that you want, right? But what's happening on the inside of your body? What's this doing for your health? We forget about that because everyone's concerned about the aesthetic, not what's happening here. And then I have, people say, oh, I took my so-and-so to Disney and I pushed him around the stroller and I didn't get, winded. Okay,
It's
well,
huge.
there you go, right?
Right.
Or I had a client say the other day, I was able to load mulch into the back of my car. That's awesome. And she goes, and I didn't have to ask for help. There you go. Right. But nobody really cares about that. It's understandably, we're a aesthetic world. And I tell people that's why when you go to the gym, you see a bunch of people doing crunches. Do you see a lot of people just hanging over on a mat, stretching and doing that? No, because aesthetically, you don't really get a great benefit from that.
Well, I do because I go to the wellness center where it's like old people.
Again, I know yoga, yes, you do, but I mean just the basic.
No,
We
you're right.
always do things that will aesthetically benefit us, right?
But it's so interesting because that's probably one of the reasons I feel so comfortable going to my gym. I'm like the young un at my gym, And actually, Dena, I want to just ask you as we're talking about this, just in terms of body health, what is important for women to be doing? Obviously balance, but at this age, it seems like strength training is really important for osteoporosis. Can you just speak to that a little bit?
I'm in the business, but honestly, the strength training, it's all important, right? Across the board.
Right. You need some cardio for your
We need
heart.
cardio for your heart. But as we get older, by age 60, women have lost about half of their skeletal mass.
Ooh.
Right? Yeah. And so weight-bearing activity, strength training, okay, will help with that. As you get older, you see what happens you look at your parents, your grandparents, right? And so I try to tell people in terms of, the strength training, what it does for your everyday life, taking the groceries out of the car, being able to carry them into the house. When you go on vacation, you're able to walk on cobblestone wherever you might be. It sounds silly.
No.
It really is taking it from here and then plugging it into our everyday life. So first of all, not going big scheme here, just keep it simple. But definitely the cardio, which for me, okay, is mental, right? Why do I do it? I mean, of course I do it. So I burn, but honestly, it's my drug. It makes me
It's been
feel
shown
good.
to be more effective than antidepressants.
I
So
mean,
cardio is great.
and I've
Just
told
for your
people,
mental health.
how many of you have ever gone for a walk or done cardio and at the end of it said, I wish I hadn't done that? Nobody,
Never.
right? Because
Never.
if you have an issue going on in your head, the perspective on it's different. It's still there, but it's like, oh, okay, I feel a little bit clearer, right? So for me, the benefit of going for even just a walk is fine. Again, I'm always told, oh, I have to run. No, you don't. You go for a walk, you're going to get the same caloric burn, okay, for a walk, then you do a run. You can just run maybe twice as long as you can if you have the 20 minutes versus a walk. And then the strength training is huge.
Yeah.
Okay. Women tend to shy away from two things: eating protein. Okay. Because that's what I always tell people. It helps fill you up, and strength training. Because, oh, I don't want to get big. I don't want to get, We're not.
We
Okay.
don't have the hormones for
We
that.
do not have the hormones running through. I mean, you do see some, and some people aesthetically or genetically are predisposed for that very small percentage.
Right.
Okay. But a lot of times it's a missing link. There's the eating, the strength training, and the cardio. And women do well. They can eat, they can do the cardio, but they shy away from
Yeah.
overcame.
Yeah. That's how I was when I was young, and I got injured because I was running a lot and I didn't do any strength. But this is very encouraging because I am now in a place of doing strength training twice a week and then doing walking. I'm just walking, and I'm
Totally
shooting
fine.
to walk 5 times a week. And you know what? It feels good. My weight isn't right where I want it. I'm medically, even by my doctor's suggestion, I need to lose really about 20 pounds at a minimum. But I feel strong because I'm going and doing that strength training. And I really am in a fitness regimen that is more focused on my health than how I look.
Yes.
But it took
Yeah.
me to 50 to get here.
And it's
And I-
hard, right? And if
Yeah.
you're in the
Yeah.
thick of it, I love that you say it's for my health, because
It
very
really
few
is.
people, I always tell my students at Rollins when we talk about exercise and stuff, and I said, if you go to a gym at night and you walk up to somebody on the treadmill and say, "Why are you doing this?" Right? And you're not going to hear, "Oh, I'm doing it to bring my blood pressure down and, decrease my risk of heart disease." People are all in it for, the aesthetic, but the health is that extra benefit that you're getting, and you can't avoid it.
I mean, maybe I'm like a total outlier, but I feel like I've been in it for health for a long time. Like, I think once you watch like a parent die, like very
True.
tragically, like I always think of health. And I wish women, and I have that shame story for sure that is like a seed underneath of it all. But I wish we could get to a place where we understand like the functional aspects of being fit, that muscle mass is a metabolic advantage. Like, I mean,
Yes.
you're like, the more muscle mass you have on your body, it's protective against diabetes. I wish we could get there, as opposed to like, I just want to fit into my skinny jeans.
Well, I'll tell you, I think it will be interesting to see, for all that I could say about what I don't love, like a true older person, about the younger generations, their work ethic. I won't riff on that right now, but I do think it'll be interesting to see when younger Gen Z is in their 40s and 50s and 60s. Do they have the shame stories? Because I don't see the same thing now. I think they have other struggles. It's shifted. But I hope we're slowly working our way out of women existing to be objectified, looked at as sexual objects, fitting into the male gaze regardless of our sexuality, and focused on our mental and physical health.
Yeah.
That's where we need to be.
And we all have daughters. So we could come back here in like 20 years.
Yeah. We've got 6 daughters between the 3 of us. So let's hope so. Well, Dena, this has been incredible. Thank you for your vulnerability, your expertise, and just the time to be here with us today. I know our audience will have gotten a lot out of it.
Well, I'm honored that you both asked me to be on and let me chat about something that I'm very passionate about, and be vulnerable. It is hard to share this because, people see me and think, oh, at least I've been told she's got it all together. And what I say to that is, you never really know what's going on, right? You never really know what's going on with anybody. So that, I said this to my client. I said, that person that you see in the perfect outfit, dropping off her kids, running off to her class, you don't know what else is really going on, right? So
absolutely, yeah. We know that as therapists.
Don't sit in judgment, sit in wonder of what's really going on, and support each other. That could be a whole nother segment of just, coming together and truly finding a way to support women and your friends, and instead of, comparing and trying to outdo, if you will.
Yes, lift and support each other up in the world. And I think it's a great reminder to end on. Nobody has it all together.
No.
Nobody. That is the business of being human. So no matter what you see on the highlight reel of Instagram, everybody's got their struggles, and let's support each other and normalize the human experience that we all struggle.
100%.
You're
Yes.
such an asset to your clients, especially being able to like share that story
Yeah.
because you really
you.
get it, you know?
I'm trying. It's a work in progress, right?
Yeah.
But
But that's how it
Yeah.
always is too,
Yeah.
right? We're never there. We're always striving
Getting
and
there.
growing. Yeah. And
And
that's
growth,
a beautiful
right?
thing.
20 years ago, this probably wouldn't be the talk, right? But now it's like
Right.
you learn from your mistakes.
And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of midlife too, that
Mhm.
we're more willing to embrace ourselves than ever, even if we're not exactly where we want to be.
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
Well, thank you, Dena.
Thank you guys
Thank you,
again. This has
Dena.
been wonderful.